Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
No problemo. Thank you for taking time to doing this interview.
Oh, absolutely. It's an interview I've been wanting to do for so very long, and an excellent way to be able to help promote the band. I mean, obviously, with being able to celebrate such an amazing album like Clandestine.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's been a while since it came out, and now it's this little show that we did sort of fit in with a 25th anniversary, even though it's counting on 30 now almost, with time passing quick these days. So
yeah, it's amazing how fast time can really go by, and just like being able to celebrate 25 years with two amazing sets for this astonishing album. I mean, what's it like to finally be able to get this out?
It feels great. It's been a lot more work than you initially think it's going to be, of course. But it's very nice and rewarding just to do something from start to finish. And it's been a pretty long journey from doing this thing with the orchestra and everything. It's been I think the seed was planted like 2005 or something, so it's been a while. It's taken some time, and then you think like, okay, the show is done, so that was the now we're done, and then there's just as much work just doing all the other bits, since I'm stupid enough to do most of it myself. But we're actually getting good help now, also getting a team back together, but it's I'm ending up doing probably a little more than I should, and that ends up taking some extra time. So, but we're working on that too.
Yeah, and I can imagine that as well too. I mean, you want to when something as cool as this is able to be performed, you want to make sure that it is done in the way that you want it to. So when you have the experience there and you want to be able to get the best possible recordings for it, and making sure that you can get it the way that you want it to, I can imagine that you are spending that kind of time with it.
Yeah, and sometimes you go mad, and then you sort of forget about it until the next time. You kind of, every project almost drives you insane, and then once it finally comes out, it's usually worth it. So then that's the part. But that's the part you tend to remember the next time you start something. But I actually quite like all the different elements that go into doing these sort of projects. So it's definitely a full-time job, but it's also interesting. So I like the even the logistics of things are kind of cool when you get things to sort of just run fairly smoothly.
So how do you feel about the final product now that you spent so much time working on it?
No, it feels great. I mean, of course, when you work on something this long, it's like, I guess we started with the mix, and that was, in 2017. So you kind of almost forget about what it sounds like, because then you start working on other things. So I actually went back and listened to stuff now that started promoting and doing little video clips for it and stuff, and it's like and reading comments from people. I was really happy to I was really amazed by Nick's drumming also, by the way. I was looking at some video clips, and he's like, it's because he was a little nervous because he hadn't played this style for a long time. I mean, he has been drumming, of course, He always does that, but he this kind of double kick drum, and so he was a little nervous when we started rehearsing, but none of the rest of us were nervous or worried about it. Of course, he got straight into it, and it's really great to see these guys in action again. So I'm very, very pleased with that.
Oh yeah, and from the fan perspective, it's amazing to see a concert like this happen. I mean, both from the orchestral sense and just seeing this lineup being able to perform such a stellar album. I mean, what was the idea going into doing a show like this, being able to celebrate the album like this?
It actually, there was a lot of different things happening, but especially two things. And as I said, as far back as 2005, somebody, a fan from Germany that happened to be playing in a symphonic orchestra, the Hamburg Philharmonic Orchestra, sent us something that he had done just on his spare time. He had done like a orchestration of Chief Rebel Angel off of the Morning Star album, and some other little piece, and that kind of like, oh, this is really cool, and then someone else sent us a letter talking, just a long letter describing how he thought that Clandestine would be good to do with an orchestra, and if we had thought about it, and of course we hadn't, but that kind of planted a little seed in the back of my mind, and I didn't work proactively on it, but I had it there, and I was like, how can I make this happen? I was thinking about it for a long time, and like was almost getting close to calling somebody and like just to get in, like how can we get in touch with like people that know how to do this. And then out of the blue, somebody called like a promoter from up in northern Sweden, and they had something like this going where they were going to use like a crossover theme where an orchestra and a band from up north, and they wanted one more band. So it just happened that the orchestrator that they had asked to help out was an Entombed fan, and Clandestine happened to be the first album that he bought as a kid, and so it was just, I guess, meant to be. And so when they asked me about it, I said yes straight away, because I didn't need to think about it, because that's kind of what I had been thinking about for like 5 years or something. So it's and that whole thing in itself then took it to the next step, which was, okay, so now we just need to figure out all the different parts, and this album, there's no way I could do that myself. So I that's when I got Uffe involved first, and Nicky also, and we met up with Thomas, who orchestrated the album, and just sat down and showed him all the parts and recorded it, and like on video, so that he could go back and then sit and know all the parts. I mean, he knew the album pretty well anyway, but there's so much going on that you can't really hear when some places you might think that there's just an open E string or something, and then there's a lot of other stuff happening, but it's not really sort of clear enough on the album. The sonic is not really crystal clear. So that's also a reason why I thought it was interesting to sort of show people everything that's there on this album. So there's a few different events that happened, that sort of made this possible, and also just because otherwise, if it wasn't for this, Nicky and Uffe probably wouldn't be in the tomb now again. So I'm really happy with everything that this sort of that this happened. It was unconsciously something I wished for. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see it as well too. I mean, being a huge fan of when bands are able to add orchestration to their sound, and it adds another level of intensity that some bands and some fans don't even realize could happen. I mean, what was it like for you when you were finally hearing this orchestration for Clandestine?
Straight away, I thought, I want to see this movie. That was like probably the first thought that I had. Like, this sounds like a cool movie now, and so now that's in the back of my mind. Like, how can we make a movie out of this? We have the soundtrack, and we have some great artwork that sort of you can lose yourself in and find things. So that's sort of what I'm unconsciously working on now, I guess. But yeah, that was the first thought. Like, this is like an amazing soundtrack. I could not have, there was no way I thought it was going to turn out like that, because usually what happens, and it took a little while before it actually sounded like this, because the first couple of the pieces that Thomas had worked on that he sent us, they were more sort of, even though I had told him, like, my vision of the thing was that he should forget the band 100% at first, like, don't think drum kit and don't think guitars and don't like think orchestra. And even though we spoke about it, and I told him, like, yeah, this is really what I look for. And then the first couple of things that came back was, it's like, yeah, maybe he said that, but maybe he didn't mean it. So there was like a drum beat, and more like what the Metallica thing, where it's like, the band is playing, and then there's an orchestra on top. And I did not want to copy that formula. So I really wanted it to be an orchestra doing what they do, and then if there was any sort of space left and any need for like whatever we could do, then he could try and add that in, much the same way that he would add in like a flute part or something. So whatever we add to the orchestrated act should be there, because that's what should be there. And of course we are on there, and we could just a little bit, but we could just as well keep quiet and try not to destroy what the orchestra is doing. But I guess we were trying to add some cello sounding guitars here and there, and when it works, it works fine. But it's easy to I'm thinking, like, if we do it again, maybe you should just have some sort of an acoustic instrument, or I don't know, a little sort of a percussion thing or something, because it's quite hard to blend like electric guitar with the other stuff. So, but it's great to just sit in the orchestra and be surrounded by these, all these instruments. That's I really enjoyed being part of that. And we did two sort of tryouts before this, the third one that we recorded for this show. So and they were, the first one was like a smaller, like half an orchestra, like a chamber orchestra, I think it's called. And then the second one was a little bigger, and we added the choir. And then the third one was like the full on with like a full orchestra, like symphonic orchestra and a full choir. So we'll see what the next one will be. We are working on something, so hopefully we'll be able to add more to it, more like, not more instrument, but other art forms. So working on add a visual elements to it.
Oh, that just sounds absolutely incredible, and I'm glad to see that it is inspiring you so much to be able to, obviously continue on with Entombed, but being able to have these new visions that you necessarily didn't have for something like Clandestine back 25, 30 years ago.
No, and it's also like, even if you had the vision or the idea to add some other instrument, back then I think we were talking about, like, yeah, if we had more time, maybe we should try adding some other instrumentation. But we were recording very fast back then. Like, the first album was done in like 1 week, and the Clandestine was in like 10 days or something. So it's this is things you sort of dream about doing, but it's such, it takes so many people to do something like this. It's like, and it's I don't know how we could have done it without having some luck with people, just turning up out of the blue offering things. So that's very, very fortunate that things sometimes you just need to think about something long enough, and it seems to sort of happen, which is cool.
Oh, very much.
And then, of course, the opportunity presents itself, and then a bunch of work. But that's okay.
Oh, definitely. So, with that in mind, obviously, with this live release finally seeing the light of day, I mean, going back, what was it like to be able to play two different versions in one night? You know, just like being able to learn the orchestrated version, then going back and playing the original version.
I mean, for us, it was quite enough to just do our own set, and then on the first set with the orchestra, we're almost just there for show. You know, we're trying to not destroy too much, but it's kind of frightening to sit in an orchestra and be if we would have had like real parts and you're like really, because it's totally different to what we're used to. Like you go by a drummer, then to go by to be led by a conductor, because they like, first of all, like the first difference would be that they, instead of sort of counting on the downbeat, they go on the upbeat, instead. So when he raises his little stick, whatever, that's what when a drummer would go hit the snare, like, so it's all backwards to us. But it's amazing. You sit there and just amazed that these guys, the first time we did it, we actually had like 3 days rehearsals, and then the second time I think there was like 2 days, and then this time in Malmö, they only the musicians in the orchestra only had 1 day rehearsal before they did the show, and I'm told that the orchestrations are like they're it's not like most like to them, like something like Mozart or something is fairly easy for them to play, but this is not easy. It's complex because it's kind of in, the notes are sort of in places where they're not used to having them, and it's low, and it's so it's all over the place, and they say it's more like a guy called Bruckner or something, which didn't mean much to me, but apparently that's like more like classical music that's really difficult to play. So I'm amazed that they actually pull it off. They can play something and have somebody show them what to do, like the conductor, and just play it off the page, and do that 1 day and then have a show the next day. It's unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely. So, obviously, with this coming out the 17th of May, and something that all Entombed fans, I think, are really going to enjoy. I absolutely love listening to this thing. What should people expect from Entombed in the future?
We are, and have been since we started, like, working together again, working on new stuff, just trying to find some time to record it. And actually, we were talking about recording last year, but then Nicky moved house, and with that, he had to dismantle his studio. So now he's ready to go again. Actually spoke to him this week, earlier this week, and he's like, yeah, I'm good to go. So what we will do, if we, the plan is to start recording stuff that we have already and see if we can maybe put stuff out, not like wait around and do like 4 weeks in a row, because that's harder to come by these days. So we'll actually go back to sort of what you do in the beginning of a band instead, which I find interesting, to just, okay, we have we'll do a session here and record 1 to 3 songs and finish them, and then maybe even put them out. So we'll see, and then maybe put an album together at the end of a couple of sessions, but not delay releasing new music just because we haven't finished 12 songs. So I think the best thing for us to do would be to just not worry too much about finishing an album, but just getting in there and doing what we did back in the beginning. Just record the songs that we have, go to the next next couple of songs, and then pretty much what we did on the first album is what that's actually what I think will happen. Because back then we did four demos, I think, and then we did the album. And we released the demos, obviously, and some of the demos we re-recorded, of course, for the album. So I mean, without having it sort of planned out in stone, but roughly that's what I see as a possibility to be able to do this, and I think it's the right way to do it as well. So it's we're excited, and I always get happy when both Nicky and Uffe are sort of fired up about something that usually means good things happen, and like non-planned as well. You go in with a plan and you do that, but then usually something else happens also on top, and that's that's kind of the icing on the cake. Usually, a lot of songs in the past have come from just those things. I think like a song like the one that comes to mind now is like Wolverine Blues. I don't think we had that song before we went into the studio, and I think it was sort of done in the studio in between sort of recording other drum takes, so it's cool. And I saw that when we started rehearsing for the shows. I saw that straight away. Both Nicky and Uffe started getting back into this Entombed mode where they get ideas flowing. So it's I'm excited about that.
Oh, and likewise from the fan perspective as well. I mean, the fact that all you guys are having this mentality and wanting to release music, whether it just be a collection like an EP or a full-length album, I just can't wait to see what you guys are capable of in the future. And until then, just an amazing revision of Clandestine, through an orchestral version, and seeing you guys play live. Celebrating 25 years and now closer to 30, but, just seeing both versions of this album in a live setting and seeing you guys, hearing you guys so happy on this album, just enjoying what you guys have done, and just, again, from the fan perspective, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the future.
Cool. Me either. I'm really looking forward to that myself, so be cool.
Oh, awesome. Well, again, thank you so very much for taking the time to be able to talk to me about what's going on in the world of Entombed right now. And, of course, Clandestine Live, which is coming out the 17th of May. I absolutely love this release. I'm so thankful that this is coming out. I've been waiting so long to be able to hear this and to be able to talk to you about everything going on in Entombed, and so much to look forward to in the future. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be able to talk to me.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. It's great to finally let as many people as possible take part of what we did in celebrating this 25th anniversary of Clandestine. And hopefully I saw like one of the comments that I saw that I was happy about, because it was exactly what I felt myself, is that he said, from listening to the live tracks now that he had heard, he said that he had picked out stuff that he had never heard before on the original album. So that made me happy. That meant that we actually pulled off the playing well enough, and it was clear enough so that you actually understand even more of what's going on than you did from the original release. So that sort of justifies the whole thing to me even more.
Oh, perfect. I think that's an amazing note to end on, and I couldn't agree more. I absolutely agree with that. I just love sonically what's going on now, being able to more differentiate the notes that are going on, both the orchestral version and the band version of the album, being able to pick up things I haven't heard before and have a new love and appreciation for such a classic album.
Cool. Well, I'm really glad that it's not just us that feel that way. So that's very that means a lot to us. So thank you very much.